I think we can roughly start about now. Hi, Joe. Hi, Bob. Thank you both for being here with us. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you, Kate.
Hi, Kate. Everyone.
Okay, so now we're live on YouTube as we're speaking. Yeah, I just wanted to. I think we can roughly start about now. Hi. Okay. I want to just give a quick background to all of us that recently we've heard the news that Tesla's price going crazy on their stock, and high-level autonomous driving is at our doorstep as dozens of leading tech companies and mobility service providers launch commercial services. And China is one of the most exciting markets. We invited Bob from XNode, who has extensive experience working with auto companies such as BMW, and Joe, who is the founder of XID Lab, and also former chief experience designer at Didi. How about you two just give us a brief introduction of who you are, what you do, and so on. Thank you.
Joe, maybe you first.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go first. So thank you, Kate, and thank you, Bob. Hi, everyone. This is Joe, the Chief Experience Designer of XID Lab, and I'm also the former Chief Experience Designer of Mobility Innovation Center in Didi Chuxing. XID Lab is a product and a user experience design consultancy dedicated to future mobility. So I'm very glad to participate in this great event hosted by EqualOcean. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, everyone. This is Bob from XNode. I'm leading the Department of Corporate Innovation in XNode. XNode is an international accelerator based in Shanghai. In last 3 years, we have been served quite a lot of MNCs in auto industry. It's really my pleasure to be invited to join this webinar. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bob. So for this webinar, it's hosted by WIM World Innovators Meet by EqualOcean, as well as XNode. We're co-hosting this event together. And World Innovators Meet is we call it WIM, WIM. It's a tech innovation focused event organized by EqualOcean. We engage outstanding speakers from various backgrounds, as you can see, to discuss the most exciting trends and at the interplay of business and technology. The salon is designed under the aegis of WIM. It's a yearly event gathering over 6,000 innovators from all around the world. For this year, we will also have a WIM Salon, also hosted by EqualOcean. And for XNode, XNode aims to build the Chinese global innovation platform for automation to help entrepreneurs and innovators build companies with a positive global impact. And EqualOcean is an international information service provider and investment research firm. And we aim to become a global platform for industrial innovation. Our mission is to introduce new technologies, ideas, and policies to the real economy, providing media innovation and for conferences, organizations, consulting research, data support, video production for industrial innovative enterprise and institutions. And we are going to start very soon. before we start, we have just a quick question for the audiences. The question is, would you buy a self-driving car if they are available now? If your answer is yes, please type 1. If your answer is no, please type 2. It's interesting to see everyone's answer. I think that's just about half. All right. And why did you choose what you just chose? I'm happy to also give my own answer. I think I would choose yes. What about you guys, Bob and Joe?
I choose no, because first of all, if there is a so-called self-driving car in the market now, I'm not sure is it mature enough and in which level. How about the technology readiness? So like I'm not a guy like willing to take risk as a first batch of people. So I would prefer to wait, wait longer. Maybe the people type 1 can be the first batch trial person, and then I will see the feedback.
Yeah, that's a fair answer. Yeah, if the question is more better prepared, it could be if the first batch of self-driving cars already went out, would you be driving the second batch or even after?
Yeah, and then I will. Yeah.
Okay.
It's also about the price. You know, the for the first self-driving car is going to be super expensive. But still, I trust yes, because I drove Tesla for quite a while, and it really helps me to reduce the stress driving in Shanghai or around Shanghai.
Yeah.
And I every day, if I can save 1 or 2 hours on driving, I know I can do really a lot of work, and that's quite kind of valuable for me. So yes for me.
That's a fair answer. Thank you guys for your answers. It's very interesting to see what everyone thinks. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to our first question. And we just wanted to say, we see a launch of commercial ride-hailing service as a key step toward building a long-term disruptive business. Companies such as Waymo, Pony.ai, AutoX, and Didi, among other pioneers focusing on Robotaxi, have reached some milestones in 2020. Could you share more about the reasons that they choose the market? Maybe Joe, you can start.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Well, actually, we can see 3 different kind of 3 groups of players, I would say, who are interested in robotaxi business. One is the car makers. Tesla is not the only one. Actually, if you see all those big car makers globally, like Volkswagen, Toyota, Ford, and so on, you heard more and more that they say they will transform from car makers to mobility service provider, right? So car makers are definitely interested. And another big group are we call it mobility service platform, which are like Uber and Didi. I'll talk more about them later. And the third group of the players are some autonomous driving technology companies like Waymo and Pony AI and so on. So, well, we all agree that robotaxi is coming sooner or later. And all of the players have seen the great commercial value and social impact of robotaxi business. For the end users, it's very interesting because robotaxi will be much cheaper and more efficient as a mobility solution comparing with other mobility solutions today, which is either you buy a car and maintain it, or let's say rent a car or take a taxi or ride hailing. So comparing with that, robotaxi will be cheaper and in many ways more efficient. I'm not saying private cars will disappear. I mean, they will still work better in some particular scenario, but a big part of today's mobility demand will be fulfilled by robotaxi, actually. So this is important for all these three groups of players. For car makers, if people will not purchase private cars in big numbers like today, by using robotaxi as a major mobility solution, those car makers will lose their major profit. So car makers want to, instead of manufacturing robotaxi for other companies with much less profit, they really want to ideally operate those robotaxi by themselves, right? So they want to face to the end directly to the end users if they want to, let's say, keep the same level of commercial success as it is today. For Uber and Didi, it's actually even more crucial, I think. Robotaxi is definitely the future form of ride-hailing. I said before that the robotaxi has a huge advantage in cost and efficiency, right? So in other words, if some other companies run a huge robotaxi fleet, they will defeat Uber and Didi by such huge advantage. And that Uber and Didi wish would never happen. They would rather run the robotaxi by themselves. So that's why they are interested. And for some autonomous driving tech companies, they need to find a commercial application for the autonomous driving technology, and the robotaxi is probably the biggest commercial application of this autonomous driving technology. So that, of course, they are interested. So I think that's the reasons for these three different groups. Yes.
Thank you for sharing with us. It's interesting you mentioned that. I also saw recently that Didi has mentioned that it plans to operate more than 1 million self-driving vehicles by 2030. So that's quite ambitious, I think. But we'll let Bob take over.
Sure. I think Joe's answer is very, complete. In my mind, I mean, maybe I can choose another angle. Is based on a report from Roland Berger. They said there are two key drivers in current mobility market, which are technology progress and consumer willingness. These two drivers will push the trend of car sharing and automation. So the combination of car sharing and automation is robotaxi. So seems like for me, I think maybe yes, definitely the business impact or the advantages of the key players or the support from the government, they are very important. But for me, I believe it's also just a time. It's the right timing. Maybe it's the right time to start testing the business. But also for me, I think maybe the biggest challenge is also from the technology readiness and consumer readiness part. We can't anticipate the reaction from the market. And maybe the biggest challenge is the uncertainty from the market as well. before the robotaxi actually on the road, the autonomous driving are quite limited in several specific scenarios like logistics or port transportation, etc., and the mass consumers are not very familiar with that. Only only after robotaxi is really on the road, it's easier for everyone to perceive the concept of autonomous driving. So so maybe only after like Didi or Uber, they issue their service of robotaxi and make it on the road, and more people have experienced that service, we will know the real feedback from the market, and that might be the biggest potential challenge, for these players for me.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. That makes so much sense because it won't be ready until like the bigger players are kind of start. Thank you both for sharing. And our next question is related to monetization. We want to ask you guys, how are you seeing the autonomous driving companies building out their business, and what are the ways for them to monetize?
Bob, maybe you can start.
Sure. Okay, as maybe for me, in my understanding, I think there are two kinds of players or scenarios in this area. One is very determinative scenarios, and the other one is open road scenario. And autonomous driving companies on determinative scenarios like logistics, port transportation, or parking, etc., they started earlier. And there are already several players and can find a way to earn money already. So also based on some anticipation, like the competition among this kind of companies will be operation ability in next several years rather than technology. But open road scenario, it just started. It's a completely different story. Still need to test and get more feedback from market and consumers. Like in Shanghai, Didi just launched a robotaxi service last month, but it's not open to all people and to all area. Like you need to apply for it and you need to wait until you get approved. And the taxi can only travel within some limited area, and it's free. So maybe for me, I mean, for this open road scenario, it's still more like getting validation outcome from the market rather than a normal business. So maybe it's too early to talk about how to earn money for this kind of companies. That's my answer for this.
Thank you for sharing. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I really agree with Bob that we can simply divide it into logistics and passenger mobility market. There are two big markets, and actually in terms of the skilled market, they are almost the same. Many people will undervalue the logistics, but it's actually a big market. And some little parts will go first, like the low speed, let's say, like the last mile delivery or something. But eventually it will go to cover all the scenarios. So I will talk a little bit about the long term future. And I'm actually more familiar with the passenger mobility. So maybe I'll talk about this part. Well, actually, it will not feel very different comparing with today's taking a taxi, because when you're taking a taxi, there is a driver in the car driving for you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't talk to this driver, it's really like you are taking a robotaxi, right? So so for the users, I think you can get use of that very easily. But how does companies goes to that stage? I think maybe we can look at the cost structure of today's taxi or ride hailing. We can find that the biggest part of the cost is the driver. Saying that you're taking a taxi from A to B and you are paying 100 yuan, around 40 to 50 yuan is for the driver's salary. So it's a huge part. Another 40 yuan is for the petrol or the energy or the vehicle redeem and maintenance and so on. Insurance is also a big part. So only around 10 to 20% is the income of the let's say the platform like Uber or Didi. So then it becomes a very simple question. If autonomous driving technology can totally replace the driver, and the cost of the autonomous driving technology is lower than the driver, then it will make a good deal, right?
Mm.
And if you see some of the estimation, the technology estimation information, you see that's not difficult to achieve in long term. I'm not saying 1, 2, 3 years, but maybe 5 to 10 years, especially in China, because the labor cost is not that high, but it's getting higher. So let's say today, every year, a full-time Didi driver gets paid around 60,000 to 150,000 yuan, depending on the cities, and it keeps going up, right? So the total cost of the whole set of autonomous driving upgrade for one vehicle could be just about 1 year's salary for the driver in the 2030 or something.
Mm.
So that's I think even before 2030, it's going to be feasible for commercialization. So basically, there are 2 steps to make autonomous driving technology profitable. One is develop a technology, the autonomous technology that can replace the driver. Okay, this is the most difficult part. And then make it cheaper than the driver's salary. That will happen. That will happen gradually.
Yeah.
It will not happen in the beginning when the technology is ready, but after several years, it will happen. So yes, if you research deeper into the industry, you see actually both of these 2 points are actually happening. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for your insights. It's very insightful for a lot of us who are not working in the auto industry. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, that's going to take some time, but it's already gradually starting. That we can sort of see from what Bob mentioned earlier, that Didi is starting the Robotaxi in Shanghai, even though it's not open to everyone, but we are kind of getting there. So our next question is related to EV and AV, and it's something related to autonomous driving. And before we move forward, I don't know if anyone knows. So for autonomous driving, there are 5 levels. The first level is level 1 is driver assistance. Level 2 is partial automation. Level 3 is conditional automation. Level 4 is high automation, and level 5 is full automation. And for Tesla Model 3, it has outstanding price and better performance compared to some leading internal combustion engines cars. Not to mention that it's autopilot and advanced driver assistance system. And their ADAS features is that I think level 2 to level 3, around that. And for the Chinese EV makers like NIO and Xiaopeng are following the steps to change how we think of cars. We would like to ask our speakers, how do you see EV makers' effort in autonomous driving?
So, okay, so maybe I can start because yeah, you may know that I worked in Xiaopeng before in 2000, starting in 2015, which was the early stage of Xiaopeng, and I think from technical point of view, EV has some natural advantage for autonomous driving application. But I would want to say more importantly is that many EV companies are new. They are new. So they don't have that kind of historical burden. And some of these new EV companies like Tesla have a strong DNA and the modern technology companies. Today, it's hard to say if Tesla is a car company or a technology company. I think it's more like a technology company. And sometimes I think this point is crucial. It's even more crucial than the technical point. When I worked in Xiaopeng, in that early stage, I was the head of the interior design and user experience, and I worked very closely to He Xiaopeng himself, and that feels very different because I also worked with many, let's say, traditional car makers before, and He Xiaopeng, he is a typical product manager from internet companies. He was the founder of UC, and he worked in Alibaba. And I think deep in his mind, he believes that the technology will change the whole industry. And he is not waiting for the proof. He just want to go to prove it. And that make a huge difference. I think it might be the same for working in Tesla or NIO or Liang and so on. So that experience make me really believe the DNA theory of the company. I think for the big national car companies, it make perfect sense that they will move much slower in this competition, and sometimes the speed or the efficiency is the key. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you so much for sharing. We would like to hear Bob's opinion on this.
Very, very interesting from Joe. And also I noticed that there are a second part for this question, like why do you think the manufacturers are most of them are in L2 and L3, but tech and internet companies are mostly in L4 and 5.
Yeah.
For me, I think the most obvious reason it's relatively easier to attract the VC's attention for startups focusing on L3 and L4. The fact is in last several years, more than 80% investment are targeting L3 and L4 startups, and tend to invest startups with a solid team and a compelling storyline. So that's maybe for me, I think that's one of the biggest reason for a lot of startups or tech startups focusing on this level. But for car makers, I mean, they are focusing on more on the feasibility of mass production. They want to put the technology on the market first and use this technology as a selling point. So that's completely different. Like comparing to the startups, the car makers are maybe relatively more down to earth. They need to survive first. So they also need to learn from the fact. And maybe after years of exploration, they also start to change the plan accordingly. Like for example, in 2017, the Beijing Automotive Industry Corporation, BAIC, they plan to make mass production of L3 level car around 2019 and L4 level around 2021, and by collaboration with Baidu. But like 1 year after, in 2018, in their new strategy, they said they are focusing on promoting the mass production of L2 and L2.5 level now, and want to make it happen on L3 around 2022. So which also shows some attitude from like traditional car makers or OEM, I think, yeah.
Very interesting. What do you think of the second part of the question? So the second part of the question, is why do you think manufacturers are in L2, L3, and the tech and internet companies are mostly in L4 to L5? Joe.
Okay. I think Bob just tell a big truth that although some tech companies keep saying about L4, L5, but today all the cars running on the road are around L2 to maximum L3. I mean, even Tesla Model 3 is somewhere between them. I mean, I know that Elon Musk just said that in the end of this year, they're about to achieve the so-called basic function of L5, but Model 3 is under L3 right now.
Yeah.
So, but still, I see that there's a big difference between let's say some tech companies and the traditional car companies, because one thing is that for companies like Waymo and Tesla, they are definitely more attractive for those talents in this autonomous driving area, and that's important. If you try the new Audi A8 and compare it with the Tesla Model 3, although both of those two cars are under L3, but somehow you feel Model 3 is it's a bit smarter. It's smarter. So another thing, I think also I very agree with Bob that the traditional OEM they tend to put the ADAS or the low level autonomous driving technology and the selling point. It's one of the selling points. It's not even the most important one, right? But for some new EV companies like Tesla, also like Xiaopeng, they really consider the autonomous driving technology and their key value, the core value of this, at least one of the core value of their products. So they take it really seriously, and they are building up a pretty good team for that. I mean, today Xiaopeng might have several thousands of employees, while some big car companies may have 10, 20,000. But in terms of the autonomous driving team, they are comparable, and maybe Xiaopeng is even stronger than many the big car companies. So for this part, I think some EV companies are actually more ambitious than the traditional OEM. That is true. That is true.
Thank you both for sharing. And yeah, I agree with both of you on this matter. We have a special question for Joe, given that you have extensive experience with Didi and in related matter. Can you introduce just a little bit more about Didi's autonomous driving strategy and practices, and sort of what will this concept and business mean to Didi as a whole regarding its evaluation?
Okay, sure. I can share some of my personal opinions about the Didi's approach for its autonomous driving development. I think autonomous driving is seriously important for Didi in the following 5 to 10 years. And the founder of Didi, Cheng Wei, had said in many occasions that if Didi failed on autonomous driving development, that would be a very, very sad story. So so it is serious. And for quite a long time, Didi had been very low profile about its autonomous driving team, until recently they decided to spin it off as an independent company. I think the autonomous driving capability of Didi has been underestimated for a long time because Didi was not advertising it very much, trying to keep low profile, which has a reason. Because imagine for these millions of Didi drivers, it would feel not good if someone says that one day you will not be needed, right? So it's kind of sensitive. The strategy of Didi autonomous driving development could be a bit different from other tech companies. we know in the I think there will be a process for this technology from the beginning to mature to go into commercialization. And in the early stage, I think DD might be not the leading one of the competition, but DD is definitely not behind too much. They are taking it seriously. They are investing, and they are having a pretty strong team now. DD is not the early bird to establish the team, but they are quite strong now. But I want to say, when the technology is 99% ready for the commercialization, that will be the chance of DD autonomous driving team to become number one. Why? Because DD has the biggest data of mobility service in no matter kilometers or in hours globally, especially in China specifically, because let's say if DD maintain its marketplace as it is today, there will be no other choice for anyone who want to, run the business, or who need the data in China. DD is the only one. Yeah, that's from me.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very interesting that you mentioned that they have the most data on this matter. And also just echoing what you just said, as DD spins off its autonomous driving unit, and they just completed their first fundraising, first round of fundraising of US 500 million. Compared to Pony.ai's 3 billion valuation, they're saying that DD's autonomous driving subsidiary is current value at 2 billion. Do you think that number is reasonable?
Well, I can't say if the number is reasonable for me, but I think the advantage I mentioned before, the data belongs to DD, not to DD autonomous driving companies. That's for sure. That's for sure. And I think DD will consider this separated company as one of the possibilities in the future, but not the only one. I mean, if this separated company, let's call it a DD AD company, if it succeed, it will be a great story, right? But if it failed, DD will have to spend some more money to invest or to buy another autonomous driving company in the future. So of course, this DD autonomous driving company it might be the first choice for DD if it does a fair job, but definitely not the only choice. That's very clear. So we need to give some more time to see the value of this company. Yes.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. Before we move to the next question, we just want to mention again that we will have a Q&A session. Everyone, if you're interested in asking the speakers any questions related to just the auto industry, autonomous driving, anything, you can just send in your questions in the chat, and we will try our best to answer all of your questions. And our next question is related to future and challenges. We would like to ask, so China's vibrant tech circles spent dozens of billion-dollar enterprises in the past few years and unavoidable failures. Companies like Drive.ai and Roadstar.ai, they failed to deliver what they dreamed. How do you guys see the challenges ahead, especially in the auto industry? And what's your advice to young startups? Joe, maybe you can go first.
Okay. Well, I actually kind of worried about the young tech companies, especially for those pure autonomous driving technology companies in China or in any other globally. Eventually, we don't need so many autonomous driving companies, right? And eventually, everyone, you need to build your own business, and you need to make money, and you need to pay back to the investors. But we see the business opportunities are mostly in the hands of these big car companies or big mobility service companies. They are big, rich, and open to buy in some talents or buying a company, but maybe one company, but not many. They don't need many. So I think it's also it's much easier for these big companies to buy an autonomous driving technology company rather than an autonomous driving company to build up a car factory or to run a huge fleet. So today we can already see that the car companies and the autonomous driving companies are kind of bonding together, right? Like pairing together. I think it's good for both of them, especially for these tech companies. I think I will suggest for the autonomous driving technology company, it's good to seriously think about what will be the commercial case for them in the future, and start to make friends with people who can really help their commercialization. Yeah, don't wait too long. Yeah.
Thank you. What do you think, Bob?
Yeah, maybe I can add several things from my side. Yeah, basically, I agree about on Joy's answer. I think, yeah, since everyone in this ecosystem, they all need to get prepared for the coming challenges. I also got some insight from Neo Capital, who is our very close partner. They do believe that Robotaxi and new mobility service will booming later, and traditional OEMs will keep losing profit until 2030. I bet a lot of my customers, they don't want to accept this participation, but so all the players in this game need to follow the wave and start make changes. So it might also be a huge, opportunities for tech startups and new players in this area. But like for, if we are only focusing on startups, if I may, maybe my advices are like, first of all, still need to be focused. Like automobile industry is a very complex and very mature industry. There will be tons of sub-domain or sub-area within this industry. So be focused and find your own position in this value chain should be maybe the first rule. And then try to not directly compete with a giant, like still try to work with them, or try to maybe get resources or support from the traditional giant, traditional car makers or new EV car makers. Don't directly compete with them. And also, especially for Chinese startups, it will be a big plus if they can get some support from China government, but it's not the only important part. Still, like you need to pay a lot of attention on your own technology, on your own team, your own strategy, and your own market segment. But if you can play the government relationship well, it can be a big plus. Like what's happening recently on Neo. It's a kind of like a good example, like show how important sometimes Chinese local government can save you in some degree. So yeah, that's what I want to say.
Thank you so much for your insights. Yeah, I agree. Especially in China, it's important to learn how to kind of go with the policies and to work with the bigger trend. In the next, we have a special question for you, Bob. If you are interested in sharing with us. So we are impressed with your extensive experiences with the startup and corporate innovation ecosystem. And we would like to ask, related to autonomous driving startups and PE or VC markets, what were the changes that you've been witnessing in the past few years? And what would you expect for the rest of 2020 and the following years? Thank you.
Okay. I have to say, in last several years, autonomous driving, it's always a hot topic within the ecosystem. No matter you are OEMs, or no matter you are car parts manufacturers, or your startups, or VCs, or government, they all, keep repeating this word again and again. But based on some, latest report, there is a decreasing trend on fundraising in this market. Like the total number is shrinking, and half of the invest are under 100 million RMB in China. So also, autonomous driving includes several subdomain or sub-technology. So in 2019, AI chips and algorithm company got more than 70% investment. Seems like VCs are losing their interest on ADAS or LiDAR or other directions. But meanwhile, besides VCs, more and more corporate, they all want to get involved. Like they are willing to invest or acquire startups through their own corporate VC. So that might also be another, big players or big strengths in this market. Also, this global virus thing, I think it does impact our life a lot, and the whole mobility industry is one of the industry might be impacted most. But however, this might also help push the development of especially autonomous driving. I'm still curious about what's coming later. Like I hope the application in more scenarios can booming. And also I hope to see the real market leader in this domain can come out. Like it might be Didi, it might be Tesla, or it might be maybe some unexpected surprising startups. But we'll see. Until now, maybe in my opinion, it seems in this area, there's no leading players in autonomous driving globally. And also, I believe like as long as people still need to move, need to travel, or need to explore the world, this industry or this topic will also definitely keep vibrant in no matter in 2020 or in next few years. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. For the next question, we would like to ask related to the company's valuations. So from the beginning of the year to now, despite the hit of pandemic to all of us all over the world, the Shanghai A-share index and the CSI index 300 by the Shanghai and Shenzhen Stock Exchange are up about 10% and 16% respectively, despite the influence of the global pandemic. For both domestic and internationally, what listed companies' values is related to the concept, the business, and the investment of autonomous driving. What do you guys think? Bob, maybe you can start.
I have to say, I'm not an expert on investment. Yeah, but for me, I mean, especially this year, maybe Tesla is maybe one of the most famous in the company in this domain, and basically all news related to Tesla will be reflected on its value. And also Tesla want to bet a lot on autonomous driving. But also in another way, I think interestingly is for me, I think a lot of famous names like Google, like Apple or Baidu seems quite silent recently in this area. I don't know why, I have to say. Maybe this concept is not as hot as before. Maybe only very breaking news can show the real influence on the capital market. So yeah, overall my impression is that I have to say it's really hard for me to immediately answer some names reflected on this domain, on this autonomous driving concept on their own value. But there were lots of famous companies before in my mind losing their impression recently. Yeah.
Thank you so much. What do you think, Joe?
Okay, I need to say that I'm also not the expert on investment.
Your
But
opinion is fine.
yeah, but yes, I'm also very much paying attention on Tesla this year. And I think it's really a good idea to start to think about who will be the Chinese version of Tesla. I think it's the answer is coming in the next few years. There are many startup EV companies in China, but I think only a few of them will become the so-called Chinese version of Tesla, and that need a deep study. Other opportunities will be in the supply chain. Not only in the supply chain for Tesla, also the supply chain for the Chinese Tesla, or how to say, there are some big players in the supply chain that their name is not so famous, but actually no matter who is playing big, they need to deal with it. And also we know that Model 3 is going to be 100% made in China by the end of this year. And Model Y is also coming, and that all means there will be more new suppliers on board for Tesla, right? And all those suppliers will be also the suppliers for the Chinese version of Tesla. I'm pretty sure of that. So that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you both for sharing. And we just want to put out a disclaimer on this. This is just personal opinion and just for information purpose only. It's not intended to be investment advice. And yeah. For now, we will start rolling in Q&A questions for the speakers. But before that, we would like to appreciate our community partners. They are HiTrends and We Hustle. HiTrends is they focus on media, financial advising, and business attraction. HiTrends serves and connects the new economic community, which involves startup, TMT, gents, and traditional enterprises, institutional investors, and local government and individuals. For We Hustle, they are designed to be an innovation and community building service that encourages entrepreneurship in China, and they connect like-minded individual international professionals to foster the highest quality pool of innovators in China. Yeah, for the questions, we will have it ready for both of you. For example, there's a question to Joe. How do you see the robotaxi's immediate need in the US, where the driver cost is actually higher in the US?
Oh, okay. The robotaxi, the business model in US is a bit different from that in China, mainly because the driver cost is higher. So that will kind of slow down a little bit about the commercialization of robotaxi in US. But if you make a comparison, and I think the point is you need to compare it between driving a private car to a robotaxi, and if you compare it between these two cases in US, you will see the gap is even let's say even higher, because in China driving a car costs more actually, because of course the car price is actually more expensive in China most of the case. And also, driving in the city, in the big city in China is really more, how to say, not that easy, right? So on the other side, yeah, Robotaxi is also easier. I think there is a research about how people, how many percentage of people will accept the autonomous, the Robotaxi idea, will take the Robotaxi among all different countries, and China is actually the top country that that people are easily accept the Robotaxi. So that also makes China will apply the Robotaxi commercialization much quicker than that in US. And also, I think there's another reason is that in US, most of the family are having cars, and that's very different from that in China. I think there's a number in Didi that most of the Didi Kuaiche, the users of Didi Kuaiche, they are actually not having cars. So they have to either take a Didi or go by a metro or bus. While in US, the Uber or the taxi is just a plus. It's just like if today I feel not want to drive a car, then I'll take it. So it's not I have to. So that's also one question. We'll make it make it slower than to have the Robotaxi in US. So eventually, yes, I think it will go slower in US.
Thank you. I agree with you on this matter too. And the next question, maybe we'll go with Bob. The question is, what could be a working investment strategy for Robinhood investors that want to get into the market?
Wow, if I can answer this correctly, can I be your CFO? I mean, this is a huge question, but maybe my advice is, yeah, I also learn a lot from some very good VCs or very good investors. Like for the first thing is still, you need to try to confirm your own invest logic. Like, do you want to, do you want to invest on the whole value chain and to try to build some synergy within your own portfolio, or you really you really want to bet on some very specific area and you want to invest heavily on this area, no matter are they competitors of each other or not. And as long as one or two of them win in the last, you will also get some return. So still, like, you need to confirm, I suggest you need to confirm your logic first, and still try to understand on this market or understand this domain, including the technology, as much as you can. And once you confirm your logic, or once you confirm your overall concept, I think then you will have your own strategy. There's no right or wrong, and but still, I mean, maybe invest randomly is not a good choose. Yeah, that's my answer for this question, I think. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. And we will maybe have Joe to answer the next question. So someone asked, any other industry that can be gained by growth of robocar and mobility services, for example, e-commerce logistics, will it see a similar rising trend?
I think the biggest part are still the passenger mobility and the logistics. And for logistics, actually, it can be divided into very smaller industries. For example, we recently did a research on the Meituan Waimai robot, which is like a small robot that can automatically deliver the food, and in that case, it can also deliver package, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially this year, this kind of business model is more and more being a reality. I think also the autonomous driving technology will somehow accelerate the how to say, the forming of the robot, the real robot industry. Because think about the Robotaxi, it's kind of robot, right? It can detect the environment. It can run by itself. It can, just pick you up and go somewhere you want. So it's really like a robot. As many of the key technologies of the Robotaxi can be applied on some kind of let's say the human-shaped robot which can take care of the elder people or children or yeah, it sounds like a very far future thing, but Robotaxi technology can accelerate it for sure. There are, I was thinking about. I think probably Robotaxi will kind of merge the some logistics market into like let's say passenger mobility market, which means the car can transfer people sometimes, and meanwhile in some other times it can also transport stuff, some goods. And it's not happening now, but for Robotaxi time, it could really happen easily because the Robotaxi is much easier to be organized, to be controlled by a system. And talking about this, I think when the Robotaxi becomes a major mobility solution for one city, the whole city structure can be very different. One example is that we did research on the charging station for Robotaxi, because we imagine in the future the most of the Robotaxi will be electric vehicles, and then they will run inside of the city to transfer people. And then when they need to be charged, they will get out to the city center to go to some suburb area. And in some kind of big buildings, there could be maybe hundreds of Robotaxi there, and they are charging themselves. And then they will need a new kind of infrastructure for the charging, and this is not existed for today. So yeah, if you go deeper, you will find more and more huge effect by this big industry in the future.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's also part of the whole digital transformation in every aspects of our life. And we will have one of the last questions for Bob. The question is, Germany is champion of automotive. Why are they so behind in the autonomous vehicle? And what do you think for Bob?
First of all, is it really so behind? In my understanding, Jose, no matter the car makers, Germany car makers like BMW, or like Jose, car part manufacturers like Continental or Osram, they all put a lot of effort or some attention on autonomous driving topic. So maybe Jose, how to define so behind? If we are talking about they don't have a lot of like booming, I don't know, news or breaking through news, or like they don't attract a lot of attentions in this domain. Maybe I agree with you, but I mean, that doesn't mean maybe, Jose, the overall Germany automobile industry is falling behind in this area. And secondly, like maybe there are some reasons or some, Jose, synergy or similarity among Germany companies. Because also I've been working with Germany for a long time. One of my close colleague or friend is Germany. Maybe first of all, their intent to maybe Jose developed internally for a long time, and they want to get ready, get prepared better, and prefer to choose a more down-to-earth way. maybe they are not willing to keep releasing some eye-catching news, but they are on their own pace or on their own strategy, following their own rhythm. As I know, I couldn't mention the specific names, but some of our clients, they do have some very interesting plan in this area or in this domain. And also they all plan to like release some prototype on maybe some big exhibition maybe this year or next year. So I mean, maybe you will see German companies are not completely falling behind. They will show some compelling things very soon, I bet. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's such an interesting way to describe it, because when you think of as a country, as the people that they want to get things ready before they release the news. Yeah. For now, I think we are towards the end, but maybe let's see if we can have 2 more questions answered by you guys, if you still have time. So one question is, any other industry, one question is related to valuation is, how do you think of Tesla's valuation as well as NIO and Liang? Any of you can answer. Who wants to go first?
Actually, maybe I will answer first a little bit. I mean, the valuation is not completely reflect of the company's true value. It's more like a anticipation from the capital market. So, I mean, both all 3 companies like Tesla or NIO and Liang, especially NIO, like first of all, my CEO, my boss, he's a huge fan of NIO, and he's the first batch of maybe NIO users in China, and he also has very close relationship with the founding team of NIO. He keep sharing how NIO is amazing and this and that, but he never show us his opinion about the valuation of NIO. He said he believe NIO car is a good product, but doesn't mean he agree with the valuation of NIO now, which maybe means there might be some, I don't know, some buffer or some bubble on this market. But in overall, like all 3 companies, they do deserve to be to be pay more attention, and they deserve to show their influence in this market. So I really don't know. I really couldn't answer like how correct the current valuation of all 3 companies are, but yeah, interestingly, like all 3 companies, I do believe they will have a kind of like bright future. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. For this, what do you think, Joe?
Okay, well, I am a car designer actually, and I worked in the automotive development team. I think for the evaluation of one company is related to many aspects, but I mean, for me, I can see the product more clearly than the valuation. So in terms of product, I think Tesla is doing a really great job. It's several years ahead from any car makers, I would say. And for Chinese new EV companies, we are still quite behind. We need to catch up. But for the valuation, I just also mentioned that it's a good time to think about who will be the Chinese version of Tesla, right? I think the answer will not be one company, because Tesla is like an exception. It's difficult to comparable, but it could be a few or several companies. I think NIO has very strong capability in many aspects. I'm personally shocked by the passion of NIO's fans when I was invited into NIO's activities. I think they are very strong in some aspects, and also Liang is also very successful in some other areas, and interestingly, they are kind of they are not like each other. They are kind of if we consider Liang and NIO as one company, it would be more closer to a perfect company, or something like that. And there are some other good EV startups in China. So I think if we consider them as a group, not individual companies, it could be comparable with Tesla in the maybe after several years in the future. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you for the interesting insights. I personally, I'm a fan of NIO, so I sort of get that they kind of have a cult following. I think that's what I would say. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Thank you both for your time so much. We loved having you here, and we can see from people's questions that they are really interested in the topic, and we appreciate your time. And I think for the Q&A sessions, we will just end here. And I want to thank everyone, for all the participants, for joining us. We loved having you here, and if you can have any suggestions, feedbacks, Steffi has put in links in there for feedback. And in the meantime, we want to say we are EqualOcean, and we have all sorts of industry news, from automotive to new retail to fintech, AI, and so on. If you're interested, please visit our website, EqualOcean.com, and you can subscribe to our newsletter for our next event information. Thank you guys so much. And for July 30th, in the US EST, and July 31st, 8 a.m. Beijing time, we will have a global healthcare summit with Rispata, and some of the speakers that are confirmed are from Harvard Medical School and from other startups from the US as well as from China. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We loved having you here, and hopefully we'll see you in our next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, EqualOcean team.
And you can also join our community by going into our LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and WeChat. If you scan the WeChat, it will bring you into a WeChat group. We'll just leave here after. But yeah, thank you. We will send the related information in the WeChat group, as well as email you individually afterwards. Thanks. We'll end it from here then. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Bob. It was lovely chatting with you too.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll chat more in the future.
Yeah, maybe next
Yeah,
time me.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Bye,
us.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, you too.